Okay, here's a question from Matt. In reading through the book of Acts, I noticed the term the law of Moses is used. Doing a search through the KJV, it occurs 21 times, while the law occurs 260 times. What is the distinction between these two terms? And are the 260 occurrences of the law referring to the rabbinical law in contrast to what Moses taught?
This is an excellent question, and I'm glad that it's asked when you are here and actually asking the question, because you can help answer this.
Okay.
It is dependent upon the context. In the book of Acts, sometimes we have where there are Pharisees who are believers who are talking about the law. Other times, if you're speaking of what a lot of the population were those who didn't follow the Pharisees, also today called Karaites, but they didn't follow any of the innovations of the Pharisees. When they speak of the Torah, they're speaking of only the written Torah. But when a Pharisee speaks of the law or the Torah, they're not just speaking of the written Torah, they're speaking of what they refer to as the oral Torah, or the traditions that got passed down to them, including the thousands of rules and regulations that were added by their rabbis and demanding that the people follow them. And if they don't follow them, they will not see the world to come. Now, Judith, you have a lot of relatives who are Pharisees who live among us in Israel.
Yes, I do.
And in your experience, do they really understand the difference between the written Torah and the oral Torah?
Well, they look at it as a larger, comprehensive body that is all one. They don't make a distinction.
That's right. And even though Moses says no one is ever allowed to add one single commandment or take away one single commandment, Rabbinic Judaism, Phariseeism, it's one and the same. It's it's admitted to with great affection and with pride. Rabbinic Judaism, Phariseeism is based on the thousands of rules and regulations that have been added by the Pharisees. And so these are the very things that Yeshua said, do not follow. Now, we know there are a lot of Messianic congregations out there. There are, Baptist pastors that would go to a Messianic conference and come home and proclaim himself to be a rabbi, and then start doing all these Jewish traditions from Phariseeism that Yeshua said don't do. But see, it's important that we understand that Yeshua is not only the Messiah, but even as more, that he proclaimed that he is the prophet that we must shema. We must hear and obey. And you can't say you're a follower of him and then ignore what he says to do. And this is a lot of what's going on out there. So we need to understand the book of Acts, there's a difference. Sometimes it's speaking of the oral Torah, sometimes it's speaking of the written Torah. Context is what tells us the difference in that.
And again, let me just recommend another book, which is the one that you just did, the Chronological Gospels, which is coming up, because you do clarify a lot of this. And again, contextually, it's quite complex. And you do a great job in there. So hopefully that's going to be a great reference.
Okay.